Hello everyone, my name is Matt, you're watching Code Tech Tutorials, and I hope you're all doing as well as can be during these times. I think it's time we continue the FPS tutorial that I started on Unreal, and I just wanted to show you guys a few more things that I'm going to show in my notes here. Now I hope this is readable, but I'll read it just in case. So the first thing I'm going to show is how to get the UI in an HP bar or meters in general kind of going on your screen. And I also want to talk a little bit about HP Regen, handling different HP levels, and of course my favorite thing, sound effects. I love sound effects. I really think they bring games to life. And for sound effects, I'm going to show you very quickly how to just, well, you can use any sound effect of course, but if you don't want to ever run into any copyright stuff, I'm going to show you how to make your own super easily, super quickly. And that's just using Audacity. You might already know how to do this, but I'm going to show you a few tricks to make it a little bit faster and easier. So stick around for that. How do you spell Audacity? Like that? I think that's right. So that's basically what we're going to go over today. Now, I've considered that since this is an FPS tutorial, maybe I should do all the shooting stuff first. But I think getting kind of some meters going and the HP handling and sound effects ready first is sort of more important, because like what's the point of hitting things with things and if you can't actually do any HP changing and it has no effect on the world, you know, it's not very fun. So if we get it so that actually things can be affected first, then it's going to have more meaning later. So that's why I'm kind of not going to that yet. So without further ado, let's get right in. I'm going to show you the UI first, and then we'll do some stuff with HP, and then add some clever little sound effects at the end. Okay, so where we left off from last tutorial, and if you haven't seen it, maybe you should watch it, but basically, I'll go over it super quick. Basically, all we did was we got this mouse movement going on a first-person guy, and we got the walking around with WASD, and we got a jump going, and we have a boost with shift. So if you hold shift, you go faster. So that's what we set up in the first tutorial, and I can just double-click on our FPS guy here. I'm going to drag this window so it locks up at the top, and there are the nodes all that we did from the first tutorial. I'll glaze over them just as a previously on FPS game tutorials or whatever, you know. That way you can pause and duplicate or whatever you want to do. Take note of is there any variables? No, I don't really have any variables. Okay. So we're going to introduce some variables in this new setup. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we want to get a UI. Now we need it to design the UI, and then we can construct it on our character's begin place. So let's go design it first. So we went back to our default screen, and I'm just going to right click in our content area and do a blueprint class. I think that's what we want. No. Okay. Yeah, this is kind of a little different. You got to go down to user interface. So right click and go to user interface, and then look for widget blueprint. That's what we're going to be using here. So you click that, you give it a name. I don't know, I'll just call it BP UI. If you want to call it something a little different, that's fine. And then I just opened it up there, and this is the default area it takes you to. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about this UI because it confused me some at first, but it seems the main things you need to know is, well, there's tabs up here. You can be in designer mode or you can be in graph mode. There were times when I was like, I'm trying to follow this tutorial, but my screen is completely different, and like 90% of the time it was I didn't notice this up here. So you have two different modes here when you're designing a blueprint. I think this is for pretty much all, well, some blueprints. So some of them have this, some of them don't. I'm still a little new to Unreal, so I don't fully, I haven't experienced everything in here yet. Okay, so we're in the designer right now, and we're just going to drop in an HP bar because that's really the only thing we want right now. But as you can see from this palette over here, there's a lot of different stuff. There's common stuff, and there's some more advanced stuff, and there's all sorts of things you can do with these. If you've ever done some sort of UI designing before, this is probably all pretty familiar to you. But if it's all new, play around some, see what things are. For now, we're just going to use a progress bar, and this is going to represent our HP bar. So we're going to drag it in here, and then it automatically selects it, and we get some details. It gives it a name. it's progress bar 400. That's not the best name in the world, so we're going to change this to HP. I don't like the progress bar, but so I'm just going to put bar. But sometimes I personally like to leave the type in there. Like sometimes I like to say HP or progress bar HP or something like that. So whatever your project standard is, stick with that the best you can, of course. But I don't like to tell people what to name things. You can name them what you want. It often doesn't matter. X, Y, Z, W. It'll still do the same thing. It's all about organization when it comes to naming things. All right, so you'll see that is a variable is checked here. This is actually rather important because if this is not checked, you won't be able to edit this bar. Not easily anyway. I don't think you'll be able to do it from other blueprints, but if you do have it as a variable, it's easier to edit and more widely through your project, from what I understand. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this HP bar designed up a little better. It's gonna, by default, it's from left to right as the fill. You can change the fill. You'll see the appearance here too, so we can change the color even too. We're going to change it to a green color. So all I did was just click on it and just drag this to green. You can see you can change the darkness and lightness. And there we go. And we can also, well, let's just go through these. There's an anchor. This, we're gonna, you know, you can do what you want with anchors. I like anchoring it to the bottom because that way you can kind of get, you can navigate from the bottom of the screen. Wherever you want to navigate from on these positions is what this changes. So if you want it to always be in the bottom center, you can choose this bottom center anchor and just change these to 0 and it'll always be there. But as you can see, that's not the best. So I'm going to move it somewhere else. Let's just move it top left. That's pretty common. And we're going to stretch it out a little bit. Okay, so we're just kind of playing it by ear. We're not doing exact numbers. But so you can move it, you know, ultimately it's going to do the same thing no matter where you put it. But this just gives you an idea of how to use the designer. Now I will say that you do have to kind of think about different size screens. Like some people might be using 1080, some people might be using 720. So your experience may vary. I don't know how much this auto adjusts. I think it auto adjusts pretty reasonably, but I haven't really tested that a whole lot. So just FYI. Okay, and we got a style here. Let's look at that. You can put a background image, you can put a fill image, a marquee image. We're not going to mess with that today. We're going to keep it a little more simple. But you can see there's a progress %, and you can change this to be how full it is. Now this is the bread and butter of this whole thing, really, is changing this % to fill how much of the bar you want. And you can see the fill type here too. So you can go like bottom to top and make it wide, something like this, you know, and it works essentially the same. So that's all in that progress. I'm going to keep it left to right, and I'll basically back to how I had it. We'll just do it up here. Okay, and so how do you make this % represent your health? Well, we're going to end up doing that with this bind button. And when I click this and click create binding, it goes to the graph and it starts a little function that says, okay, how do you want to fill this % bar? So we'll have to fill out this function, which is in blueprint form. However, we don't have any variables to work with yet as far as how much HP the player has. So let's go ahead and compile and save here and go back to the character. But also, it's not going to just show the UI because you built a blueprint. It's just a blueprint that's sitting here and isn't in the world or in use yet. So we also have to put it in our world. And there seems to be a lot of different ways to do this, but since it's the characters UI, I like doing it on the characters begin play. I think that makes sense. So basically we just drag off this begin play, construct object from class. Yeah, this is it. Construct object from class, and then you got to change this class to BP UI. So that's a little weird, but that's how it is. And this outer one right here is our self. So we construct it, and then we want to add it to our viewport. So we drag off this one and add to viewport. And of course, the target is this UI. And that's really all we need to do to just add it to our screen when we start, because as this instantiates, it's going to construct that BP UI and add it to our viewport. So let's go ahead and hit play. As we can see, it's up at the top there. The shift plus F1 thing's in the way, but it is up at the top there. There's a little bar. That's our HP bar. So now if we go back in here to BP UI and back to the designer, we can give it a default % just to make sure it actually does that real quick. So let's just do that. It didn't. Yeah, okay, so that's not auto showing the % that we expect. It's because it's being overridden by this get HP % bar thing. So if we remove this binding, then it's going to default back to just whatever its default value is. So that's why. It's because we created that binding that kept it 0 and did nothing. So later we'll update that binding to update our little bar there. Okay, very good. So let's go back to our FPS character and we're just going to add in some HP. So over here in variables, we're going to have a max HP, and we want this to be a float. Float's good here. And we're also going to have current HP. So max HP and current HP. Now once you compile, you're allowed to give these default values. So I hit compile there and I'm going to click back over to max HP, and let's just do the max HP at 100. We're not going to edit that in this tutorial, but of course if you're doing some kind of game or RPG, this is something that might change over time, and we can talk about that later. So our current HP, we're going to just set it to 25. That should be fine for starting out. So very good. Now we have some max HP and some current HP, and now we can use those in a function on this HP bar. So we'll go ahead and go back to this binding, or we'll set it back to the one we already created. And now to view it, you got to go back to graph, and you'll find it over here on the side, and there's HP bar. So what we're going to do here is it says get HP bar %. But we're going to be using this as more of an updater. So I'm going to rename this by pressing F2 and call this update HP bar. So anytime the HP bar updates, this will handle it. So first of all, what we want to know is what we're interacting with the character. So this is only related to the character. We want to make sure we have our character that we're working with when this is updating. So the first thing we're going to do is a cast to BP FPS character. And then this object here is going to be the player character, get player character. So this only works on that player character class very specifically. If you're making another class, you'll have to do a different UI. So this UI in that way is kind of tied to this FPS character. So if the cast is successful, then we go to the return node. But we want to not just go to the return node. This is returning 0, as you can see there. But we want to do some stuff from this player character, mainly with that current HP and max HP. And if you want to do a %, of course, you just put the current HP divided by the max HP. So we'll drag off of this as BP FPS character and say we want to do get current HP. And that's that variable from our other class. And we can get it because we're casting to that class. And we want another one that is, so we'll drag off again and just look for max HP, get max HP. And then of course we want a division here. So I'm going to drag off and just hit the slash and look for the float divided by float. There it is. With the current on top, bottom, max on the bottom, and the result is going to be here. So as you can see from our starting out, we're going to have 25 current HP and 100 max HP. So what's going to happen here is this bar is going to be 25% filled if everything was successful. There it is, looks about 25% filled. That's perfect. Okay, so we don't actually have a way to change it yet. So the next step would be, okay, so what if it changes? Well, the great thing about this function to update the HP bar is if our HP changes on our character, this bar just automatically adapts. So that's super cool and makes it super easy. we are going to add a little bit of HP regen. So over time, our character is going to regenerate. This is going to use a few new concepts, mainly with our delta time. We're going to actually start using our delta time to see how long it's been. So we're going to have a couple variables for this event tick to see if it's time to regen a hit point. So say we want to regenerate 1 hit point every 3 seconds. That's the only condition we're going to give now, just a default 1 hit point every 3 seconds. In a real game, of course, is going to be different. Maybe you don't want to regen until you've been out of combat for a while or something, so you'd have more stuff, but we're going to keep it simple here and just a very base regen. So we're going to add some variables to help handle this condition. So we're going to have an HP regen, or we'll just call it regen. We're just going to call it regen tick. It's kind of hard to come up with names that work really well here, but basically this is regen tick is going to be our constant. That is how often we regenerate, how often it ticks, and we're going to do 3 seconds there. So I was able to compile and then just default it to 3. Optionally, you can default all these by dragging off this and doing set regen tick and then set it to 3, and that also on begin play will set it to 3. I think that just kind of clutters up the area a little more, since you can just put default values right here, but to each his own. Okay, so every 3 seconds. And then we need to know how much time has passed, so we need to kind of accumulate, well, not kind of, we do actually need to accumulate delta time until we hit 3 seconds. And then at 3 seconds, we want to regen a hit point and then reset how much time we've accumulated. So that way we can get every 3 seconds of delta time passing. So to do that, we'll need an accumulator. So we'll have a regen tick. I'm just going to call it ACC. So this is of course going to default to 0. And what we're going to do here is we're going to have a branch to start. And this branch, I'll explain. It's just an if. And the condition is if current HP, we want to get current HP. If your current HP is above or equal to your maximum, you don't need to regen anymore. So that's what this very first check is. Otherwise, you're going to regenerate above your maximum HP and your game's going to be glitchy and you're going to get bad reviews on Steam. So we want to take the current HP, we're going to drag off of it, see if it's greater than or equal to another float, and that other float is going to be our max HP. So if current HP is greater than max HP, well, I think I'm doing it in reverse here. We only want to regen if current HP is less than max HP. So I'm doing a backwards of a check there, no worries. As long as it's less than the max HP, then this condition is true. So if this returns true, we drag off here and do our true setup. So what we're going to do is we're going to set our regen tick accumulator, and we're going to increase it by our delta time. So we need to get the current regen tick, whatever it's currently at, and add the delta time to it. So I'm going to go do this again and just get the regen tick accumulator, and we're just going to do a plus another float, and the other float is going to be delta time, which comes off this tick here, and then we just drag the result into there. So that is going to add the delta time to the regen tick accumulator. Very good. And the next thing we want to do is we want to see if this accumulated time is above our regen tick, is above 3. If it's above 3, we need to do our next part. So here we're going to have yet another if statement. So we're just going to do an if there. And this time you can probably imagine we're going to see if regen tick accumulation, we're going to see if it's greater than the regen tick. So if this is greater, I could probably do greater or equal because I want it to, that's going to be a very rare case that they're equal, but Might as well, because if it's exactly 3 seconds, that fits it too. I think we should regen. There we go, just moving it over. So if the regen tick accumulation is greater than our regen tick that we set, go ahead and say true here. So if this is true, we're going to set our current HP. And what we're going to set it to, well, whatever our current HP is already. So we get whatever it already was, and we're going to add some number to it. So we're going to do another plus here. And for now, we're just going to add 2. We'll regen 2 hit points every 3 seconds. Or maybe we could do 3 hit points every 3 seconds. Let's do that. That makes it a little easier to read. Actually, sorry, change my mind again. I'm just going to stick with 1. No. I have an idea here. I'm going to do something a little different than I actually planned. Let's do 3. Let's say you regen 3 hit points every tick. And what this introduces is the possibility that your current goes over your max. Because what if you're at 99, so you're less than max, but then you regen to 103, but you're only allowed 100 because your max is 100. So you have to have a condition for that is what it comes down to. So we're going to drag this over a little further because there's going to be a little more logic here. So current HP, we're going to add 3 to it, and then we're going to drag out of this and get the result. And if this result is greater than, or yeah, we'll say greater than max HP. Well, I'm sorry, I just need a greater here first. And then we'll just get max HP. So if this result is greater than the max HP, then this is going to be true. Otherwise, it's going to be false, and we just set. All right, so let's add a few different conditions here. We need yet another if statement. So right click, type in if, and this branch is going to have to go through here too. So basically, if it's time to regen, we go ahead and do the regen. And if it's greater than the max HP, then we're going to set our HP to max HP. Because we don't want to go over. We would rather just set it to max. So that way we don't regenerate to 102 and break our game, get bad reviews on Steam. Instead, we just regenerate to 100. All right, and if it's false, what we want to do here is we want to take this result. Well, we want to do a set current HP, but now it's just the result that we got from here. Because we know we're not going over. We already did that check here, and the answer was false. And it looks like we're done, but there's one actually really important thing, or we will still get a bad review on Steam, and that's we have to reset this regen tick accumulation. So if you did end up regenerating, you need to not regenerate again for 3 seconds. So the only thing we need to do here is on either of these cases is just set regen tick accumulation back to 0 as it starts over. And I'm just going to copy it, paste it, and do the same thing here. Either case, we change it back to 0. Okay, and we are looking pretty good here. Now, I will say, I'm just joking about this bad review on Steam thing, but it is what enrages people when bugs are in your game. And it's totally possible that I'm doing this in a buggy way because I'm kind of new to Unreal, but I'm just trying to be funny, trying to make this humorous, a little more enjoyable. All right, so this is just playing around here. I got this all selected with box select, and now I'm just going to right click and create a comment, and I'm just going to call this HP regen. So that way, when we go back in here later, we can just take a peek at this box and be like, okay, this is where all our regen happens. So in case there's a bug, it's very easy to find. And now all we want to do is basically just hit play on our game and confirm that we regenerate some hit points. And we should see this bar move every 3 seconds. There it goes. There it goes. There it goes. And yeah, it looks like this is working very well. We are regenerating some hit points. And now this auto scales. So if your max HP is much higher, this 3 will look a lot tinier. So this progress bar handles all of that. Okay, so now we got an HP bar. We got some passive regeneration. The next thing we need is a way to take damage and some stuff to happen. Now I said I would do it in this episode. I think I got the HP regen and a little bit of HP handling. I'm sort of running out of time, so I'm not going to go any further into handling right now. I'm just going to do some really quick last minute sound effect things to make it sound cooler. So what if when you regen a point, you get some sound? Because that's really the only thing we do now. I guess we could do it on jump. We could make a jump sound. But you can, in theory, drag off of any of these and just do play sound at location, and you can make your character make whatever sound you want. And what you do here is you just go into this and look for select asset. And I have some default ones already, but I said I would teach you how to make your own, so I'm going to do that, and I'm not going to use any of these default ones. But just to show you that works, I'm going to click one of these. I don't know what this is, collapse 2. So when we jump, we'll get a collapse 2 sound. And if you want to make your own, let me just launch Audacity here. Okay, let me bring Audacity over. You can just launch Audacity, and through your microphone, like this one I'm talking in right now, the better your microphone, the better. You can hit record and then make your jump sound. Huh. And then stop. And you can see right here where I made the little huh. I can highlight it and then just hit play and get a little huh sound. So what you can do here, now that you have it selected, is you go to File, Export selected audio, and give it a name. And let's see, I want to put this in the library of this project I'm doing, so give me a second. Unreal projects, this one was called FPS demo, content, and I have stuff there. So I'm just going to make a new folder called audio and go into it, and we'll just call this huh, however you say that, huh. HU. Audacity allows you to put meta tags in. I'm not really caring about that for a little huh sound. There we go. It is now exported, and move this out of the way. Now, a cool thing about Unreal is it sees that a new asset has come into your folders for this project, and it asks you if you want to import it, and you just click import, and it'll do the thing. Now, also, maybe you saw it, but I did import or export as a .wav, 16-bit .wav. There's a lot of different file types. I'm not an expert on all these file types. I just tend to use 16-bit waves because it's simple, easy, and they're relatively small. And about everything supports it. Okay, so now that we imported it, it should now show up in our assets. So let me just type the name of that, HUU, huh. And now when we jump, we should get this huh sound. It's kind of quiet there, but you can hear it. Oh my, you can't hear the sound at all. Hold on, sorry guys. I just have to change it on my recording device to actually pick up the speakers. Okay. Sorry about that. And yeah, so now we got that. We got the regen, and we got, you know, some more elements. And maybe you can get a lot of ideas just from there about what to do next, and some more ideas. But we'll cover that in the next episode. This one's getting a bit long, and I think in the next episode I'll get a little more into building some elements of the game and getting some interactions and maybe some start and end cases that you can potentially add. Thank you so much for watching. Keep clear, guys. Keep coding. Keep working away. Take care of yourselves. I appreciate all of you very much. Thank you all very much for the support. It still blows me away to this day to know that, you know, I just started this channel somewhat goofing, thinking I'm just going to do some sarcastic coding tutorials, and that now I have over 500 people on here because I don't know. It just blows me away that communities can come together like this. It's very cool, and I want you to know that I appreciate it and I take it seriously. And take care of yourselves out there, guys. Peace out.